Hello friends, welcome. I'm Commissar Mark and today we are going to play some more The Rebellions. Just as a reminder, last time we picked up a technology to increase our soldier damage by 20% in order for us to be able to clear the next swarm, which is blocking the path to a mission that's called Mines of the Raven. We will want to go to this mission as it is the easiest out of the options that are currently provided. I will, however, note something. This video has taken a little bit longer because I've tried for one day to get through the lowlands, which is one of the cruelest missions in this game, since it's a very tiny map, absolutely packed with infected, and you just don't have the space or the resources to really handle the challenges present, at least not before you grab some more upgrades. And so I managed to get to a point where I set up a shocking tower on that map, and at that point you usually are strong enough to just brute force it and survive, even if it's not optimal. But I then realized that it took me so much time and attention that as a guide it would just not really serve the purpose of showing you how to do it, because, well, most people probably wouldn't be able to, like, it will take you restarts. If you try to do that at this point you can, but at least several restarts are pretty much mandatory before you get to grips with how the map works. So I'm gonna show you small little clips of how I got overrun and then what I managed to set up on the screen right now. But just know that it's really not worth it at this point. We could go there as it locks one of the very good hero missions behind it, the lowlands, but we can do better when we get some more global upgrades. So instead, we are going to be heading up, as I said, and we'll be clearing the next swarm, and we'll be going to the Mines of the Raven today. First, we deal with the swarm mission, as mentioned before. We're going to be going with pure soldiers, build, and one ranger for microing again. And this one is a runner swarm from multiple directions as they always come, so we'll hug our units around the outpost, and I'm gonna micro them so they hug closer together, because otherwise the units can kind of clump up in a weird way, leaving some spaces behind. So clicking them to converge on that outpost makes them much more condensed, which I like to do. And we'll use the ranger to try to distract some of the enemies, but it's runners and it's gonna get a little bit harder than with the shamblers, so we might actually end up overwhelming some of our soldiers eventually, but this is buying our soldiers time to get some veterancy, or at least clear some of the enemies from the map, as this does not have insane amount of enemies in total. Even if we suffer some losses, we can just get through it. And yeah, in some of these swarm missions we're just gonna lose some units, as I mentioned before. That doesn't really matter, but all that matters is you clear the whole thing, right? And so this should result in us winning. And what matters here is if these swarm missions, they are kind of weird design from gameplay perspective, as the developers designed them in a way that either you have the critical mass to beat it or you don't. There is no middle ground. Often micro doesn't save you that much. Now with that out of the way, let's take a look at the map through the command center. And so we can see that we will be starting in the middle of the map. It features multiple pretty solid wood lines even early on. However, there are areas on this map which feature very packed runner infected, and we need to be mindful of where these are. I'm gonna try to mark them as closely as possible. And so poking into these areas with just rangers will result in us getting overwhelmed pretty quickly. And one of the key features of this map is that our iron is heavily infested. There are gonna be not just regular shamblers as usual on most maps on the iron, but there are gonna be even executives and runners, and a lot of them around it as well, meaning that if there ever is a burst of noise that happens, we could lure potentially dozens or hundreds of runners onto that location. And so getting our soldier force up and running is going to be difficult, and we will have to make sure that we defend the iron properly, which is going to be hard without soldiers. And so the map does have 2 pickups for iron, so we can get 20 iron, which means you can produce 10 soldiers without actually securing the mine. And 10 soldiers should be enough to kind of skirmish with the runners a little bit. You will see what I mean by that later. But for now, just know the location of the iron and the north, and also invasion points, which I'm going to mark. And There are swarms on this mission, meaning that we need shocking towers in order to deal with those in a proper manner, which again, at around day 11 we should be building a stone workshop, researching our shocking towers, and be ready to slap one down in the direction that the game announces the swarm from, as they can come from the south, the north, the east, and the west. Usually I would consult the map when a swarm hits. I would take a look at it and see where all the potential invasion points are in order to secure it. Once we build up enough soldiers, we will start to clear around the map, securing some of the vital gold deposits, as the goal of this mission is to get to 2000 income and 700 population. The population requirement is fine, and you can even ignore the gold completely and just go for like 1500 pop and just do everything through taxes, but these gold deposits will be vital in order to play the mission quickly, so we don't have to face some of the later swarms. But you totally could take your time and make it a tax only mission. However, for me, I'm gonna be utilizing at least a couple of these gold deposits, as each one of them should yield you around 300 income per income cycle. A small note is that I will be recruiting some more rangers than usual on this map, as there are very many choke points to cover with rangers for our flexible defense to work. Just having 1 or 2 will usually not work very well, since there are gonna be random radar attacks hitting our base later, and we need at least 3-4 per choke point to make it so that the flexible defense can actually deal with these. And we also will lack the iron for some of the early parts, and so it actually adds up to being pretty natural for the recruitment, but we definitely want to focus on those soldiers as well, as they will be the main clearing force to actually claim the map for ourselves. And this is the point at which I'll show you what I meant earlier by mentioning that we will skirmish with the infected in order to secure the iron. I have recruited some soldiers already. We should have around 8-9, and this is a substantial force. They cannot really reliably clear all of them, but they're enough to clear at least some of the enemy forces, especially if we use them to skirmish. aka not building anything too close nearby, poking into the infested area, killing a couple, luring more in, and then using said force to go ahead and fall back a little bit to split up the enemy aggression, as some of the enemies will get drawn to a noise and stop midway, while others will follow us and will proceed to get obliterated. Some of the things that I haven't really foreseen is that some infected from the left will also hear the noise and start coming into our base, but we can just quickly adjust the flexible defense and use the rangers to kind of deal with enemies that are walking to a dangerous area, but otherwise, since we left this place relatively open, we just lead all of them, let them all run towards the soldiers without any issues. This is gonna result in some veterancy for our guys, as well as just generally clearing up the area, as otherwise a single small amount of noise would have drawn all of these infected into our iron mine instead, and that's just unsustainable. And so in this way, we achieve the clearing even with small amount of soldiers. When we get the announcement that the swarm is approaching, this is the first one, we will push out our energy grid in that direction slightly more and then establish a shocking tower in a favorable position to take care of the swarm of infected. Furthermore, we will want to position our soldiers in this area if they are not tied up busy cleaning up something else that's very necessary. We'll just use them to make sure that we snipe any executives and reduce the strain on the walls, as otherwise the shocking tower does have a cooldown with its attacks and it could lead to the enemies punching through, and soldiers can also get some veterancy this way, and it's a good way to ensure that the swarm does not inflict any real damage on your colony. After we are done with the swarm, we will be much stronger than we are before, as we now extract iron, make more soldiers, expand our economy, and generally push into the map. And we want to section off and start clearing out areas and establish choke points. Push up with the soldiers all the way to the map's edge. Either one would work. Usually it's good to strategize a little bit in which direction you push out into, and then secure it with a wall and a shocking tower so that you know that that area is safe. I would leave like 1 or 2 rangers guarding that on set to high priority targets as well, in order to make sure that they help snipe any executives if there are still some left. But this is how we want to repeat this process all the way across the map. And I'm just gonna speed this whole process up until we are done. Now, before we end the video, I'm also going to spend a little bit of time and we'll go ahead and pick up the new research, which for me is going to be the commerce upgrade, allowing us to construct markets to effectively reduce food supply consumption in nearby housing, as well as offer us access to buying and selling resources, and also basic supplies upgrade, effectively giving us plus 20 base starting energy and food for every command center that we start every map with, which is gonna help us in maps like the lowlands a little bit later. So thank you for watching and see you around. Bye.